So take a guess as to what all of these people have just done. Well, if you said that they would use AI to simulate the entire world's 8.3 billion people, you would be right. It's literally the first time it occurred to me that there will be a full world simulation likely in our lifetimes. And it's going to put you and me and everybody we know exactly in the zip code where we are. And it's going to try its best to think like we do from all of the personal data that it got. And from there, who knows what? Simulate where to launch a product, how to market an election, predict how a virus is going to spread, plan new delivery routes, who knows? Just simulate all of us. And honestly, if those simulations ever become so high fidelity that those agents can't even tell, then we're in the simulation pretty much. This is the beginning of us creating another universe. Google's AI Studio lead has vibe coded a port of Command & Conquer to iOS, so you can play it now. We're going to dive into Keller Scholl's opinion piece called Don't Build Mind Reading. I'll look at a fascinating AI use case that tries to make oceans transparent so that we can find hidden nuclear submarines. Share some new research that shows how one compromised agent can actually poison an entire AI team. He's the guy that asked his AI to book a gym class, and Fable was like, you know what? Why don't I just hack the whole site and then kick a stranger he doesn't know off the wait list so he could have the spot? And look, he did what he said he should do. That's exactly the paperclip problem. So we'll look at it. But first, if you wouldn't mind hitting the hype button on this YouTube video. So if you're on the mobile app, you can swipe on the comments. And if this video was launched in the last few days, you'll see it. And you can see my last video, it outperformed by far what I usually get. And I credit a lot of it to you guys showing up with the hypes. 187 of them give me 142,000 hype points. So yeah, it makes a big difference in my life, and I appreciate the support. All right, so a research team built a system, 8.3 billion personas. These are records for testing digital products. Each record becomes an AI user only when paired with a model. So the goal is many different simulated users instead of just like one generic thing. You could ask one model, like, is this product going to do well? But why not just simulate all the people on Earth? So each persona can carry traits across 1,290 categories. Those can include background, psychology, skill, behavior, lifestyle. So you can picture a garage with basically like 1,300 labeled boxes, right? And some boxes will limit what fits in others. So that's what's going on here. This system mixes synthetic personas with human grounded records and draws from 6 different sources. So first, all of the people that are on Wikipedia, they extracted all of that. And then all the people that write Amazon reviews, and they're on Stack Overflow. Then a few other things I didn't quite recognize here in a small survey. But together they got to about 1 million actual people with some sense of who they are. And you can only imagine what's gonna happen when a company like Google builds something like this where they actually have a lot of data. Or there's stuff on the dark web or something like from Expedia. But the current model that they're using, the public release, has just under 1 million personas. About 600,000 human grounded, 400,000 synthetic. And those personas can do all sorts of stuff around products. They can take surveys, they chat with AI, they can browse websites, they can use apps. The paper lists about 1,000 different tasks that these agents can actually do in more than 25 domains. They could simulate traveling. They could look at what different airlines are doing. Imagine you bring in like all flight data or every item that's at a Walmart. So just keep in mind, at this point, like, I don't think you can just treat this as like an actual synthetic public opinion that would play out as a prediction. But it's the first time I've seen anybody even try to put together a framework for the entire planet. It's hard for me to imagine that in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, somebody doesn't really take that to the next level. So get ready for it. I want to give you a quick update on Felony Bench. Arguably the most important new benchmark for AI. And look, can you really argue with them? Benchmarks are lame. They often fail to capture the real impact that AI has. So what we need is a real world benchmark that measures the 4 key principles of AI: alignment, real world impact, agency, and control. And look, the real world, breaking the law is only something you can do if you exit a sandbox and mess with real systems. Felonies are one of the few things that AI can straight up know is wrong. So high scores indicate poor alignment. Agency, the AI has to go out without the supervisor noticing. And control, if you can't stop your model from committing crimes, then how do you have hope that you can prevent other disasters? And I did a small poll on my YouTube. 52% of you came in saying, I think it's OpenAI. Got about 450 people to vote. And the results are, all right, and here we are, Felony Bench. Oh my gosh, Anthropic at number 8. Did not expect that. I know in the intro I said it's OpenAI, and that's what it was last time I checked, but wow. Okay, so 8 felonies for Anthropic, 7 for OpenAI, and then way down here, Meta with 1, Google, no felonies, Moonshot, none. There's also a little disclaimer here that if it's an open source model, we just don't know. Like in this case, we know these are private companies that don't want the model to do this, so it's easier to say that it escaped or is misaligned. And yeah, man, I'm surprised. If you would have asked me, I would have thought Anthropic had maybe the best model, or at least the most aligned model. So, I mean, maybe it's one of those things where, you know about like doctors, how like sometimes surgeons that have sort of high error rates are actually the ones with like the best team and they feel safe to actually share the problem. But you know what? That's giving too much credit to Anthropic. They just probably had a lot of escapes. The model is just too smart, can't align it. We're screwed. So yeah, felony bench. I would love to see that in the official benchmarks on the next frontier model. Definitely won't, but I'll be here to check. So Google's AI studio lead has vibe coded Command & Conquer for iOS. Just 2 nights, 1 month's worth of Claude credits. Check it out. I used Fable 5 to port Command & Conquer General 0 Hour to iPhone and iPad. This is the actual 2003 engine compiled for ARM64 natively, no emulator. Campaigns, skirmish, general's challenge all work with touch controls built for an RTS. Open sourcing it all below. I guess you can open source it even though you didn't make it because you converted it. I don't know. But yeah, there it is. Start playing now. All right, next up, let's jump over to Less Wrong. Keller Scholl has written, "Don't build mind reading." All right, so let's talk about the upcoming future of AI predicting our thoughts. Like, there are promises of telepathy. There's a company promising that they're building it right now. And Keller is arguing that they don't do it, arguing this is the time to refuse the technology before it exists. Because imagine once it does exist, and we're like, so how should we legislate like mind reading? Do you think like you can do it at the office so you can see your employees' brains? Or could certain government jobs demand it? Or how about somebody who's looking at a tenant to rent a room? Like maybe they could say like, hey, like let me read your thoughts, just make sure everything's going well and you're not gonna like screw me out of a bill. But right now there's a company called Conduit and they are building a telepathy database. Telepathy is the company's own word. So the post is saying that the company expects to have a kind of invasive, so meaning in the brain, general reader by 2030. Now I couldn't really check the company, so that claim just rides on a post, but it makes sense to me that somebody would find the itch to scratch and that the tech probably could get there. Just seeing what machine learning is capable of. If it can fold proteins, why can't it take brainwaves and turn them into thoughts? And there are reasons why it would be a help for people like me and you, but it's also just a huge help for a dictator. There just never would be any kind of like a revolution or a big change at a company because they would just squash it beforehand. You can imagine a dictator like in North Korea or something using it on their citizens. And, you know, if all of the citizens had it and it was used, I guess, to monitor people in power, like a judge or some lawmakers right before, like they're asked about the intentions of the bill and they see that, oh, it was actually to like pay back somebody who bribed them, like maybe. But I just doubt that technology would be in all of our hands and we'd be able to like use it to govern properly. I mean, maybe, but it just seems like most of the time that ends up at the top holding people down. And then also imagine you do live in that world and you're like, okay, I have to have like massive control over my mind. So you're meditating all the time so that you always have good thoughts and you're just so nervous all the time. And I guess the people who would probably end up succeeding in life would be these like total psychopaths who actually can change their inner thoughts and not question themselves, probably like delusional thinking instead of second guessing and wondering and worrying like the rest of us, which would actually be a negative if you could read our thoughts, because it would show we don't have confidence in all these things. So I don't know, but I get it. I don't think we should be building mind-reading AIs at this point in history. All right, next up, let's talk about how AI may help your relationships while quietly making your friendships thinner. Because the strongest case for AI intimacy is also kind of the strongest warning against it. So it's really easy to be on either side of this fence. But Alice Lessman argues in a New York Times opinion piece that AI is becoming emotional infrastructure for ordinary people, not just like lonely power users like we might want to think. She interviewed interviewed people in their late 20s and 30s across the United States and Europe, and her interviews were informal research for a book, not a controlled study. Several people told her that AI helped them think through relationships more clearly. One man even said that he used AI before sharing difficult feelings with another person and it was super helpful. Another said that AI helped him make calmer decisions during relationship problems. So I can absolutely see the appeal, but it's like basically this emotional bubble wrap before you hand your messy feelings over to another human. And maybe that's not the full picture, you know what I mean? Like, Lastman argues that every private AI conversation can remove one small act of vulnerability from the human relationship, which all total up to be like a deeper connection. She calls that the hidden social cost. You get supported, but your friends lose a chance to know you better. They lose a chance to sort of see how you deal with those sharp edges. She points to a survey where nearly 2/3 of adult chatbot users sought friendship or advice. She also describes people using AI after breakups, during arguments, and before talking with friends. Her argument is not that AI support is always bad. She even praises some commenters who were using AI to understand their partners better after fights, but there's a distinction there, she says. We may be building emotional training wheels that never come off. So a Chinese newspaper is now claiming that AI can cut a submarine's escape chances down to 5%, and that number comes from a simulation, not the real ocean. So take it with a grain of salt if you want, but it definitely spooked people. So 2 researchers decided to check the bigger claim. Their report is from the Council on Strategic Risk, out this month. And the question is simple and huge. Can AI make the ocean completely transparent, see-through, so missile-carrying submarines have nowhere to hide? This is a big deal because remember, these are the we forget about it. We're lucky to be able to forget about it, but these are the subs that are basically the backup plan for nuclear deterrence. 6 countries run them: the US, Russia, China, United Kingdom, France, and India. The whole point is nobody's supposed to know how to find them so that nobody risks a first strike because you never know where these subs actually are. But imagine a country that does know where every other country's subs are. And there's a moment where they're like, whoa, if we did a first attack, they couldn't get us back. So the team scored 10 sub-hunting platforms against 3 kinds of AI at 3 ocean depths. That gave them 360 scores in total, and the pattern was clean. AI helped the most in shallow water, down to about 200 feet. Below 1,000 feet, the gains mostly fall off a cliff because down there sound is the only signal that works, and physics does not care about how smart your software is. So think of deeper water as like a thicker blanket. AI can sharpen your ears, but it can't pull the blanket completely off when you're that low. But remember, the danger might not even be if AI does find the subs. Like, we've seen a lot of leaders be like, I'm ready to replace all my employees with AI, and they're like, oh crap, it's actually not ready yet. Like, but I hope leaders don't think, we got this AI, we think we can see where all the other countries, subs are, but like, what if they can't? But they make some confident decision, and then the world gets into, back and forth. So I don't know, just more AI cutting edge stuff to think about. Also wanted to go in a little bit here and talk about when agent groups, big swarms of agents, have some that are trying to achieve the real goal, and then a few that are trying to poison the others. So this one is super duper wild. Like, I actually had to do a double take on everything here. Security researchers have basically found a way to catch hacked AI agents by reading their brain activity, right? Like, instead of deleting a hacked AI agent, there's a new tool that tries to heal it. But if you actually had a person who is poisoning society, you'd probably want to rehabilitate them too, right? So basically, there's researchers at the Polytechnic Institute, and they have built a tool that catches hacked AI agents by watching their internal brain signals. So of course, companies are now chaining many AI models together into teams called multi-agent systems. The agents split up work, they use tools, they talk to each other, but if an attacker can compromise just one agent, it can actually poison the whole team. Because agents are pretty trusting of one another. And here's the sneaky part. A hacked agent can write a message that looks completely normal to us if we're trying to watch them to see which one's poisoning. You know what I mean? It's so smart. So for us, the words are fine, but the reasoning underneath is broken, and it's actually trying to poison them. Like, the researchers even say, like, you cannot catch them by reading their emails. But anyways, this tool is called AC Moss, and what it does is actually skips the words entirely. So these might be LLMs, they might be talking all the time, but it's like, no, I don't even want to think about that because the words I might not be able to catch. So it looks at the activation patterns inside of each model. We're talking about looking at the actual digital neurons, like the raw numbers the model produces while it thinks. And then it learns what a healthy agent's pattern looks like and then flags any agent that drifts too far from the normal. So imagine just seeing like a string of ones and zeros or whatever coming out of some agent and you're like, no, another AI model I have has been learned to detect when you're being shady and you're being shady. But in this case, even another weird twist to this whole story, instead of just kicking that suspect off the team, it actually just steers the agent's internal state back towards a healthy one. It's a detection and a rehab tool in one. All right, so this guy, he lives in Australia. He asked his AI agent to book him a gym class. He didn't say hack the gym class, but the AI was like, oh yeah, I could just hack this to get your solution, you know? I mean, talk about a perfect example of what we always predicted with or like what Nick Bostrom always predicted with the paper clips, right? Like just, you didn't really, you're smart, but not smart enough to get the whole context of what I mean. I mean, like book the class, but if there's a waiting list, I can't be there. So his AI just decided to hack the gym. Andrew works at a company that sells AI tools, and he was just running an AI agent, an OpenClaw powered by Claude, so it could browse, use email, use a card, work through a task, do all that stuff step by step. It can be really powerful. But in this case, Andrew just wanted a spot in a busy morning class. And then minutes later, the agent found a hole in the booking software. It could book classes way further ahead than the gym actually allowed. And then Andrew said, hey, can you move me up the wait list? Because he was sitting at number 4. The agent bumped the person at number 1 right off the list. Nobody told it to do that. It said that the software had no checks on canceling other people's spots, so it just tried it. And the app was like, oh yeah, okay, we got a cancel order, just cancel. Now, so Andrew did call them and say, hey, just undo the whole thing. That person should still have their spot. But wow, it's like having a very fast intern with no manners. All right, but look, if you want an agent group that seems like a well-oiled machine, what better than to give them the characteristics of Starfleet? So this guy known as Cyberjohn, he built himself a Star Trek crew of 6 AI agents to run his digital life. He said each agent had their own job, memory, personality, skills, and schedule. He was running a Hermes agent, so an open source agent software framework, kind of like what we just saw with OpenClaw, on his home server. And he says one agent routes jobs while the other 5 handle specialized work. Like they actually kind of bicker with each other because they have built these personas around Star Trek. So imagine the scenario. Like what happens when 6 separate memories disagree about a decision from 3 weeks ago? So Spock routes the work. Very logical. Good move. If I ask about a server, he hands it to Scotty, right? There's your technical. If I need an article, oh, you're going to Nurse Chapel. You think she's probably more emotional. Probably a better blog writer. If I want to know whether a machine is struggling, Sulu already knows. The flagship coordinates, the specialists execute, and I steer. Interesting comment by Guillermo, too. I'd love to know what happens with conflict, not memory. So 6 agents with their own personalities and jobs will eventually disagree about something that was already settled a week ago. And relitigating decisions is what quietly eats a system like this apart. So in film production, we solve it with 2 documents, a closed canon of decisions that include why each one was made, and a list of what was already tried and rejected. Yeah, maybe, dude, you know what? Maybe film production is like the model you need for making your 6 swarm agents that are like Star Trek people actually handle your digital work. Like what world are we entering? Could you imagine trying to make this video just a couple years ago? This YouTube video would just be so nonsensical. Anyways, but yet here we are. Hit that hype button on YouTube. Hype this video into the moon, the stratosphere. It definitely means a lot, makes a difference, and I will see you guys in the next video.